Cause of mesothelioma. Mesothelioma, a rare and aggressive form of cancer, primarily occurs as a result of exposure to asbestos. Asbestos is a naturally occurring mineral that was widely used in numerous industries due to its desirable properties such as heat resistance, insulation capabilities, and durability. However, when asbestos-containing materials are disturbed or deteriorate, microscopic asbestos fibers are released into the air. The inhalation or ingestion of these asbestos fibers is a primary cause of mesothelioma. Once inside the body, the sharp and durable fibers can become lodged in the lining of the lungs known as the pleura, abdomen, peritoneum, or heart, pericardium. Over time, these fibers cause chronic inflammation, scarring, and genetic damage to the cells in the affected areas. Please be aware that everything discussed in this video is unbiased, verified with facts, and approved by a licensed healthcare specialist before we proceed. The purpose of this video is to examine the numerous mesothelioma causes and throw light on the elements that lead to the condition's emergence. In light of that, let's start by talking about the causes of mesothelioma and some methods for treating it. The exact mechanism by which asbestos fibers lead to the development of mesothelioma is not yet fully understood. However, it is believed that the fibers cause prolonged inflammation and irritation, triggering genetic changes in the cells lining the affected areas. These genetic changes can disrupt the normal cell cycle, leading to uncontrolled cell growth and the formation of tumors characteristic of mesothelioma. It is crucial to note that mesothelioma has a long latency period, often spanning several decades between asbestos exposure and the onset of symptoms. This latency period makes it challenging to identify the exact source of exposure in some cases, as individuals may have been exposed many years prior to their diagnosis. While asbestos exposure is a primary cause of mesothelioma, there are other factors that can contribute to the development of the disease, although to a lesser extent. These include occupational exposure. Certain occupations have a higher risk of asbestos exposure, primarily due to the nature of the work or the materials used. People working in industries such as asbestos mining, milling, manufacturing, construction, shipbuilding, plumbing, firefighting, and asbestos removal face a higher risk. Their jobs may involve handling or disturbing asbestos-containing materials, resulting in the release of asbestos fibers into the air. Workers in these occupations can inhale or ingest the fibers, increasing their chances of developing mesothelioma. Environmental exposure. Some geographic locations have natural deposits of asbestos. Individuals living in close proximity to these areas may be exposed to asbestos fibers released from the soil or rocks. Additionally, people residing near asbestos-related industries or sites with improper asbestos disposal practices may face environmental exposure. This can occur through the air, water, or soil, increasing the risk of mesothelioma development over time. Secondhand exposure. Family members, particularly those living with individuals occupationally exposed to asbestos, can experience secondhand exposure. Asbestos fibers can adhere to the clothing, skin, or hair of workers, unknowingly bringing the fibers into their homes. Family members who come into contact with these fibers can inhale them and develop mesothelioma years or even decades later. Radiation exposure. While not as common as asbestos exposure, certain types of radiation have been associated with an increased risk of mesothelioma. Therapeutic radiation treatments for other cancers, especially in the chest or abdomen areas, may raise the likelihood of developing mesothelioma later in life. Additionally, exposure to high levels of environmental radiation, such as from nuclear accidents, has been hypothesized to contribute to the risk of mesothelioma, although the direct relationship is not well established. Genetic predisposition. Although rare, certain genetic mutations and inherited conditions can make individuals more susceptible to the harmful effects of asbestos exposure. For instance, the BAP1 gene mutation has been associated with an increased risk of developing mesothelioma in some families. These genetic factors may impair the body's ability to repair DNA damage caused by asbestos fibers, heightening the risk of mesothelioma development. However, it's important to note that the majority of mesothelioma cases occur in individuals without a known genetic predisposition. SV40 virus. The simian virus 40 or SV40 is a virus that contaminated some polio vaccines administered in the late 1950s and early 1960s. Studies have suggested a potential link between SV40 and the development of mesothelioma. The presence of SV40 in mesothelioma tumors has been observed in some research, but the exact role of this virus in causing the disease is still not fully understood. Further investigation is needed to establish a conclusive connection between SV40 and mesothelioma. It's important to reiterate that asbestos exposure is a primary and leading cause of mesothelioma, accounting for the majority of mesothelioma cases. While other causes and risk factors have been identified, their contribution to the overall incidence of the disease is relatively small compared to asbestos exposure. It's worth noting that mesothelioma has a long latency period, often taking several decades between the initial asbestos exposure and the development of symptoms. This delayed onset of the disease can make it challenging to identify the exact source of exposure in some cases. Efforts to prevent mesothelioma primarily focus on minimizing asbestos exposure. Strict regulations and guidelines have been implemented to control asbestos use in many countries. Occupational safety measures such as proper protective equipment and handling procedures aim to reduce the risk for workers in industries where asbestos exposure is possible. Preventing mesothelioma, a rare and aggressive form of cancer, primarily caused by exposure to asbestos, is of utmost importance in safeguarding public health. Understanding and implementing preventive measures are crucial to reducing the incidence of mesothelioma and protecting individuals from its devastating consequences. Here's the following list of preventing mesothelioma. Number 1. Awareness and education. Promote awareness about the dangers of asbestos exposure among individuals who work in high-risk occupations such as construction, manufacturing, and asbestos removal. Educate them about proper safety protocols, including the use of personal protective equipment, safe handling and disposal of asbestos-containing materials, and regular medical checkups. 2. Occupational safety measures. Employers should implement strict safety regulations and guidelines to minimize asbestos exposure in the workplace. This includes conducting thorough risk assessments, providing appropriate training to employees, implementing engineering controls such as ventilation systems and containment measures, and ensuring the use of personal protective equipment. Number 3. Asbestos abatement. When renovating or demolishing older buildings that may contain asbestos, it is crucial to hire certified professionals to conduct asbestos inspections and proper abatement procedures. This helps prevent the release of asbestos fibers during construction or renovation activities. 4. Environmental monitoring. Regular monitoring of environmental asbestos levels in areas where natural deposits or asbestos-related industries are present can help identify potential exposure risks. Proper management and remediation of contaminated sites are essential to minimize environmental exposure. 5. Legislation and regulation. Governments should enact and enforce strict regulations on asbestos use, handling, and disposal. This includes banning or limiting the use of asbestos in products and setting standards for permissible asbestos levels in occupational and environmental settings. 6. Personal hygiene. Individuals who work in occupations with potential asbestos exposure should follow proper hygiene practices. This includes using designated changing areas, showering before leaving the workplace, and laundering work clothes separately to prevent the transfer of asbestos fibers to their homes and loved ones. 7. Genetic counseling. Individuals with a known genetic predisposition to mesothelioma should consider seeking genetic counseling to assess the risk and discuss preventive strategies. Number 8. Regular health checkups. Individuals with a history of asbestos exposure, especially those who worked in high-risk occupations, should undergo regular health checkups, including imaging tests and pulmonary function tests to detect any early signs of mesothelioma or other asbestos-related diseases. It is important to note that prevention is most effective when coupled with early detection. If you suspect you have been exposed to asbestos or are experiencing symptoms associated with mesothelioma, it is crucial to consult with a healthcare professional for proper evaluation and guidance. As always, we care about your health. If you enjoyed watching Vital Health TV and learned something from this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.